No more showing proof of vaccination in 2 weeks and no more capacity limits in restaurants, gyms, stores and cinemas as of this Thursday. Premier Doug Ford announces Ontario is getting rid of COVID restrictions sooner than planned.
The extraordinary measures that we introduced during this pandemic were always intended as a last resort.
With COVID hospitalizations now less than half of what they were at Omicron's peak, the province is now speeding up lifting restrictions. Instead of waiting until after this Family Day weekend, capacity limits at restaurants and other businesses will end in 2 days. Then, as of March 1st, there will be no capacity limits at sporting events or concerts. And you won't have to show your QR code.
We no longer need the proof of vaccination. It served its purpose.
Doug Ford insists today's announcement has nothing to do with the truckers' protests or fears he will lose some of his base in this June's looming provincial election.
I wouldn't call them my supporters necessarily. I think it's a mixed bunch.
On Friday, the Premier announced a state of emergency in response to the trucker protests that had shut down the Ambassador Bridge. Today, he had another warning as the Ottawa protest continues.
If you choose to use your vehicle to create chaos, you will lose that vehicle and your license, plain and simple.
If you listen to the news conference today, it seems like we're out of the woods.
We're blind is where we are. There is a sub-variant of Omicron called BA2, and that is apparently able to reinfect, and it is more transmissible than original Omicron. And we don't know how much of that's around because we're not doing testing. And we don't know, more importantly, what our population immunity is right now from natural infection. Have 1 million people in Ontario had Omicron? Have 4 million people had Omicron? It's somewhere in there, we think. And that actually makes a big difference.
The Premier noted the pandemic has been a polarizing time and even seemed to reference his own grown daughter, who has taken a vocal anti-vax stance on social media.
I've experienced this in my own family. It's been one of the hardest things my family and I have ever gone through.
Now, as for masks, they will be the last to go. There's no timeline yet, but the Chief Medical Officer of Health says he'll assess the needs for these mid-March. And it's important to note the province will still issue proof of vaccination. That's needed for travel, which is a federal mandate. And it's also remaining a provincial requirement to show proof of vaccination to work in hospitals and long-term care.